You are my sanctuary, my hiding place where I belong. You are my peaceful harbor. You will bring me safely home.
Welcome everyone to Tuesday Chapel. So I'm Mira. I'm from the Speak team. If you guys can stand up. This is the Speak team. We're the Sexual Violence Prevention and Education program here at Calvin. And we're thanking you to be here today. October is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we're very grateful to be sharing something that's usually not talked about in faith settings. And we are here also with Tony, who is our partner, off-campus partner from Safe Haven Ministries, and he'll be sharing a story today about lament. But before we get started, I will be reading Psalm 13 today. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord, my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. So please welcome Tony here on stage.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm grateful to be here, to get a chance to share with you, especially during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's one of those things that it takes a little processing. And I thought today, just helping us think about a prayer practice in thinking about this might be appropriate. So that's what we're going to talk about beyond complaint. It's a practice of lament is what I want to talk about. Now, one thing that I know, and having partnered with Speak Team and others for years, you got a new nifty slogan this going beyond. And in ways, I think it's an important one to kind of think about, especially around lament, going beyond. Because I think sometimes we can get maybe stuck, or maybe sometimes we shy away from it. And there's probably a number of sources or reasons for it. Some of you may remember. How many people remember Eeyore or have this interaction? Yeah? People know Eeyore here. And Eeyore, I think, for me, is useful. You know, and if you haven't met him, Eeyore is the complainer on Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. He's got that voice, I'm tired, I'm cold, I got a bad seat for chapel. It's the complaints that go. And sometimes when we think about Eeyore, we're like, oh, I don't want to be an Eeyore. And maybe you've been around people who are Eeyores, and that can be a lot. But I don't want to blame Eeyore, because sometimes there are reasons. There are experiences. There is harm that happens that can really land us in that complaint. But I think in terms of what the Lord wants for us and some of the ways that we think about it, there's also an ability to go beyond. And that's what I want to think about today with you all. Now, when I think about lament, and Professor Cho, who's here at Calvin, he's helped me to think about lament in some particular ways. But I tried to boil it down, because I know we only have so much time, just to a couple kind of things about lament. It is complaint. And sometimes in the church, sometimes we just want to say that West Michigan nice, we're like, I'm fine, it's fine, I'm good. But I think the realness in the wholeheartedness in our spiritual journey is to actually acknowledge some of that complaint. But then the other part, and this is the trickier part that we'll talk about, is the remembering, to kind of hold both of those. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to practice that in a little bit. I want to go back to the scripture that Mira read, and maybe we can hear it once more. You heard it once. This time you might kind of think about where are you drawn to as you think about Psalm 13? How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. The very words of God. And what we see here is what they call a psalm of lament. But I want to just take us through, introduce a couple things before we actually get to try out our own prayers of lament too. When you look at the text, a couple things to think about. There is complaining there. And oftentimes it's in this question, how long? Maybe some of you have wondered, how long is this class going to last? But that's kind of, first world problems. There are certainly things that we can complain about. Psalm 13, the complaints. How long will you hide your face from me? And maybe you've experienced that dark night of the soul where it just seems God's far away, or maybe I'm far away from God. Sometimes there's just the struggle is real kind of times. How long must I wrestle with my thoughts? Some of you might be walking in here today, wrestling with thoughts. Day after day, feeling sorrow, the ways that things stretch out. But that's real. You don't want to have somebody just say, kind of silver line it and say, well, at least you got tomorrow. There's this idea that we acknowledge in that complaint. How long will my enemy triumph over me? You think about that and the things that might really kind of land for you and the ways that impacts you. It doesn't fit with West Michigan nice, but I think it does fit in terms of reality. So I want you to just I like in prayer just to take some silence. So we're going to just take 45 seconds. It'll be uncomfortable. You might not, some of you feel like you got to fill the space with noise, but just be quiet. Just ask the Lord maybe to bring to mind for you maybe a complaint that you've brought in today. Kind of store that one in your pocket. We're going to come back to it when we actually think about practicing lament here. But this idea of a complaint is important, but it's not the only thing. We do need to think about going beyond, because there's some remembering. This act of remembering, I think, is really important. I mean, we've heard it throughout the Bible. Remember the God who brought you up out of Egypt. From there, going on. But there's some remembering that's going on in this psalm. I trust in your unfailing love. There's a remembering about who God is. He's unfailing. My heart rejoices in your salvation. Remembering that God is a God who saves. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good. Remembering that God is good. You can hear the psalmist. But here's the trick. I mean, when we let complaint come in, when we let Eeyore kind of speak a little bit, but then there's also, you got to hold it. And it could be super uncomfortable, because it's like you might be mad right now or super sad at your complaint. But then the way that you hold it, the way that you sustain, at least in my practice, is the remembering part. So I just want to encourage you all to remember. And you might think about some of the ways you've heard attributes of God or qualities of God. I'm just going to ask you to do this for a sec here. Take about 30 seconds to kind of think, what's one attribute or quality of God that's important to you? Now, if you could, because this is a little interactive, just find somebody next to you and tell them about one attribute or quality of God that's important to you. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. It could be a one-word, two-word conversation. But let's try it. Everybody, action. Going to interrupt you in about 10 seconds, so let the other person talk. Okay, I'm going to ask you to pause there. It's always good to contemplate the attributes and qualities of God. That's a great way to even just spend some time in silence. But we're going to try and practice a little bit more of the lament. So I'm going to go first and just share a little bit of my lament. There we go. There we go. Shaping a lament. On the right is my grandma, Catherine McGlynn. In the middle is my mom, Kathy Tendero. And then on the left is me. I think the thing that shapes one of my laments, and even this is part of my work at Safe Haven too, is I am the grandson of a survivor of domestic violence. And that experience of my grandmother back in the 50s when nobody talked about this. There was a silence and a shame that happened around it. But my grandmother found the people around her that were able to support, and eventually my grandfather died before I was born. But my grandmother, kind of as the survivor and bringing the hope that she carried, she was able to, raise my mom and her 6 other siblings on a farm in Kansas, and then even just welcome all the grandkids. And so she's had that impact. But it's a lament when I think about the stories that I've heard more recently about my grandmother's experience, that nobody deserves to experience that in relationship abuse, but she did. And we even feel it today through me. So that's a source of my lament. My lament, too, in my work, as I think about my work at Safe Haven, is the ways and the prevalence of what's happening with domestic violence. 57% of college students who report experiencing dating violence said the abuse happened in college. That number of dating upperclassmen, 1 in 3. These numbers cause lament for me when I think about this. And there are other numbers too, but these were the ones that I thought for you all to kind of understand. Relationship abuse looks a lot of different ways. This is research from Ellen Pence, but she, in a long-term longitudinal study talking with survivors, was able to identify these threads, all the different ways that abuse plays out. Today is not the day to talk about it, but I know in upcoming, the Speak team is doing a healthy relationships workshop, and that would be a place where you'll start to learn more about this. I just put it up here to kind of give you a sense of what are the ways that it plays out and how do people, an abuser, get for power and control. So my lament, what it feels like right now, the way that I named, there's naming reality, there's the action or response that you're asking for, and there's the attribute or quality of God. So I'll just kind of read my lament out to you all. How long, O Lord, will you allow relationship abuse to harm your people? Please, God, bring your safety and shalom to victims and survivors. And I trust that you draw near to the brokenhearted, and I will sing your praise. So I'm going to ask you to try it as we wrap up here. This is just going to be for yourself. I will say that lamenting is something that you do together, though that's next level. Once you kind of get your lament and kind of think about it, that might be something that you gather with your small group and you kind of pray out the lament too. But you can use this little sentence starter. How long, O Lord, will, and you just name your reality. We're going to be quiet here for about a minute. Please, God, and think about what's the action or response that you want. Then finally, I trust in your blank, and I will sing the Lord's praise all my days. So try a lament here. We're going to practice. You don't have to say it to anybody else but the Lord. But we're just going to make some space here for about a minute to think about your lament. Lord, I just want to ask you and say thank you for hearing my brothers and sisters as they lament. A couple last quick points after lamenting. And this is my experience. It's not just sitting and complaining, but it's also then expectant faith that God's going to draw near. And God brings himself, he brings strength, he brings resources, he brings friends. Here at Calvin, he's brought some friends. The Speak team certainly is ones that, as you lament, and if your lament intersects in particular with domestic violence and dating violence, these are friends that are going to be able to help and equip and talk and support and listen. They do have an event coming up tomorrow, and that's around helping to generate and build some capacity for people to respond on behalf of friends. And this would be one to come and see as well, in terms of thinking about how do you intervene as a bystander. Safe Haven is another place that we come alongside people that are lamenting. We could be that friend support group. We have cards outside on the two pedestals outside the door, as well as some other Safe Haven stuff, and as well as some ways to continue praying with us. So last thought for hope before we worship. There's one who hears your complaints. And this is who he is. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He hears your afflictions. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. He draws near to your brokenheartedness. He proclaims liberty to captives and freedom to prisoners. This is the one who you're talking to, you're complaining to, and he hears. And as we worship, use this song as a way to respond to that.
Blessed are the hearts that are not Blessed are the ones who suffer violence and still have strength to love their enemies. Blessed is the faith of those who persevere. Though they fall, they'll never know defeat. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him.
Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Amen.
When I forget, who will I be? God of the dead, remember me. When all is lost,